Hello there, and welcome to the Newsmax Daily for Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Oh, so close to Friday the 13th, which will be in June. A week from today, spring officially arrives, and of course, a lot of folks in a lot of areas of the country excited about that. Today is National Good Samaritan Day, which actually traces back 2,000 years to the Gospel of Luke. But there is a much more recent story from 1964, in fact, that goes along with why Good Samaritan Day is celebrated today as a day for you to step up and do something good for someone in need. In an effort of time, I am not going to tell you the whole story, but I recommend you go look it up. As you know, SpaceX stepped up to rescue the two NASA astronauts that have been stranded on the International Space Station for 9 months. I think they were supposed to go for 8 days. This after an issue with the Boeing Starliner. A few days ago, they acknowledged that SpaceX was telling the truth about President Biden preventing Elon Musk's company from bringing them home sooner, but acknowledging that they didn't know all the specifics of the discussion. Yesterday's attempted launch of a SpaceX crewed mission to the International Space Station that would have returned those two astronauts had to be scrubbed due to a hydraulic issue.
Dragon, SpaceX LD on countdown 1. At this time, we are standing down from today to further address hydraulic release data.
More on all of this from Greg Kelly.
Who had to come back to Earth before docking with the space.
Well, it didn't happen.
If this were to happen,
it's been postponed for a little bit. That rocket was supposed to have blasted off a little over an hour ago. Technical difficulties that happen sometimes. So the astronauts were all cooped up in the little capsule on pad 39A down there in Cape Canaveral, and they'll get off. It's funny, the astronauts, don't they look like almost like an old-timey version of what the future astronauts would look like, right? I mean, from a movie from 1970. It's all kind of awesome. That is Elon Musk's rocket, of course, SpaceX, to rescue the astronauts on the space station, especially Sunny. And she's the really skinny one. Have you seen her? I mean, bad health. Something's going on up there. And we hear she's losing bone mass, and same for the guy astronaut as well. It's tough up there. Yeah, this is before she left, and this is what she looks like now on the right. And the eye is a problem. The International Space Station continues to orbit. And how long have they actually been up there? 200 and something days. 200 and how many days was it exactly? 273 days. They were supposed to be gone for 8 days. Okay, this is a very bad situation. It's been downplayed and almost ignored, certainly by the Democrats in the Biden administration. I don't think the media interest has been sufficient. And maybe because, well, there's an Elon Musk component to this rescue mission, right? Elon Musk made an amazing offer. Yeah, I can go up there and get him. NASA was actually intrigued by the offer all the way back in the summer of 2024. But politics kicked in, we believe, from Joe Biden. Not only I believe, the astronauts believe. Elon Musk put it this way to our own Rob Schmitt.
So obviously it was an antagonistic situation. And those astronauts were supposed to be up there for 8 days, and now they're up there for 8 months. Does that make any sense? And we obviously could have brought them back sooner, but they didn't want anyone who supported President Trump to look good, basically.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Isn't that incredible? It's totally, I mean, that Joe Biden would be that petty, that political, that nasty. Granted, I always knew he was nasty, and I knew he was petty, and I knew he was political, but you would think when lives were hanging in the balance that he might make an exception for a political, adversary, rival, whatever. It's just Elon Musk at the time. He hadn't come all out with the Doge and everything, which is fantastic, by the way. This is fascinating. An astronaut from orbit in the International Space Station, the guy on the left there, confirmed the Elon Musk story, that it was offered and turned down.
Elon Musk has said that he made the offer to bring you guys back earlier and that it was denied. My first question is that true? And if so, what would that have looked like? Was he offering to make another flight, push seats on another flight? Could you give us some background there?
I can only say that Mr. Musk, what he says is absolutely factual. We have no information on that, though, whatsoever. What was offered, what was not offered, who it was offered to, how that process went. That's information that we simply don't have. So I believe him.
I believe him. I believe him. Wow. A hot story confirmed from orbit. Now, granted, some of Elon Musk's rockets blow up from time to time.
The SpaceX Starship exploding overnight during its latest test flight, scattering debris and disrupting air traffic across Florida. It's the second consecutive mishap for the most powerful rocket ever built.
Well, here's the thing. He has reliable rockets as well. That is the experimental Starship. If you look over here, if you can, I can hold it up for you. You want to take a look at my little, all right. These rockets work fine, all right? These are the Falcons, okay? And those are the ones that he sends up to orbit to get guys from the space station. This big monster rocket over here, this is the experimental one. And sometimes I hear they actually blow it up on purpose, right? Once it's done with its initial mission. But there have been some snafus, but nobody's on board these rockets. Look, he knows what he's doing. He's in the rocket business.
Greg Kelly Reports is at 9 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. More from Greg coming up in a moment. But look, I live in Florida. I'm in the news business. I've followed the success and the failures of SpaceX almost from the very beginning. And they have achieved things that NASA had said weren't even possible. And they've achieved it all at a fraction of the cost that NASA would have. Only hours after the crewed mission was scrubbed, SpaceX did successfully launch the Falcon 9 rocket from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station with more Starlink satellites. As I mentioned yesterday, I was able to get a glimpse of it from my backyard patio, the video on my phone, and I have like an iPhone 10 or 11 or something, so, it's not that great. But the video on my phone from 65 miles away isn't great. But I posted it on X at radio_Marino. It's still kind of cool. Plus, I was wrapping up my birthday day celebration with a cocktail and a cigar. So, All right, back to Greg Kelly.
It's so great that President Trump has this man at his side. All right, next, please.
Who would allow men to play in women's sports? And they're still fighting it. It's got to be a 95% issue. But they're on television this morning. I see this person, a Democrat, say, we should have the right. No. Men should not be, they're hurting women. They're hurting women very badly. They're hurting women. And they should not, and they're also demeaning women. But who would want these things? And everything's transgender. Everybody transgender. That's all you hear about.
It's true. It's still a thing. It's still a pestilence that's with us. These kinds of scenes, drag queens showing up in public schools. Now, there's been a major shift, of course, with President Trump in the White House once again, but they did a lot of damage, and there's still resistance. You've heard of Sarah McBride? Well, Sarah started out as Tim McBride, and then became Sarah McBride, and ultimately became Congressperson or Representative McBride. Now, the issue I have here, it seems pretty apparent to me that the Democrat from Delaware is in office because of the gender thing, right? Transgender is like a shortcut to prestige and status with still a huge chunk of the Democrat Party. You saw what happened yesterday on Capitol Hill. It was pretty great. We've had it with the insanity, right? People say this is not nice manners. I'm sorry, showing up like Congressperson, whatever, that man, this is good, and it's important, and it's necessary.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
hearing. You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
And they're out of there. Well, good for that Congressman Self. McBride, I could argue the decent thing would be to, sorry, but not show up like that. Congressman Self, he's speaking for a lot of us. This has gone way too far. And that guy who was all indignant about it, what was his name? Keating from Massachusetts. Here's the deal about McBride again. The whole appeal is the gender issue, the gender status. It's what made this person a member of Congress to begin with, and a media darling, of course.
Again, that's Newsmax host Greg Kelly, and last night a federal judge, Ana Reyes, appointed by President Biden, ordered Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to retract a post about disqualifying transgender troops from service, saying the idea of two sexes, quote, is not biologically correct. Really? The clip of President Trump there that Greg played was from his bilateral meeting with the Taoiseach, a.k.a. Prime Minister of Ireland, yesterday, where he, of course, was asked about the tariffs.
As you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them. Nobody can complain about that. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter what it is. If they charge us 25 or 20% or 10% or 2% or 200%, then that's what we're charging them. And so I don't know why people get upset about that, because there's nothing more fair than that. And we had a problem with Ontario, and they dropped that when I let them know what we were going to be doing. They dropped it immediately, so I'm glad, because electricity, you shouldn't be playing with electricity. It affects people's lives. Actually their life. I mean, it can affect, depending on weather, it can affect their life, so we can't do that. And it doesn't make sense that our country allows electricity to be made in another country and sold into us. Who did that deal for the United States? Okay, I looked at that long ago, and I said that's not something that's very smart. So we've had a lot of bad trade policies, and yet we're doing very well right now. But we're doing well because I won the election. If I didn't win the election, you would have had a very bad period. I think a lot of the stock market going down was because of a really bad 4 years that we had. When you look at inflation and all of the other problems wars and inflation and so many other problems. But we're going to have very good years. We had, I don't know if you saw a little thing like the cost of eggs, little to you, but big to people out there, down almost 30% in the last few days. We got it down. We did a lot of things. We have a great Secretary of Agriculture, and we did a lot of things that got the cost of eggs down very substantially, and so many other things. A very big thing that I'm very happy with is oil is down to $65 a barrel. And that's faster than I would have attempted. We put on the gas. We stepped in the gas in order to get oil, and what's happening. So we're getting that down. And when energy comes down, prices are going to be coming down.
That meeting and news conference was the focus of Rob Schmitt's show last night.
The president's EU tariffs are clearly warranted in this case. The EU, the European Union, guts our country on trade. We subsidize Europe tremendously, buying millions of their foreign cars. We see BMWs everywhere in this country, but you rarely see a Ford in France. For every one American car Europe buys, we buy 14 of theirs, and cars are a lot of money. That is a lot of money. We see the same in agriculture, trends that the president intends to end.
April 2nd is going to be a very big day for the United States of America. The United States of America is going to take back a lot of what was stolen from it by other countries and by, frankly, incompetent U.S. leadership.
All right, so in the meantime, the other side spent today freaking out about Trump's Tesla purchase at the White House from yesterday. Elon Musk's dealerships have been targeted by left-wing lunatics as Musk works with the president to cut waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. Elon's company is taking undeserved abuse, getting terrorized at Tesla dealerships. People driving Tesla cars are getting attacked in the street. All of this as he works to save our country from bankruptcy. Trump thanking Elon by buying one of his cars, the nicest one I think they had, in front of the entire world. It was reported this way on MSNBC.
Julie, what's your reaction to this Tesla stunt? Is it ironic that the president is now touting electric vehicles?
I mean, first of all, it's not legal. Let's start with that. Second, I mean, you can't do this on the property of the White House. It's federal property. Second, I mean, really, the president is basically a car salesman now. It's just astounding with everything that's going on.
I guess little Julie there forgot about this moment when Jeeps were lined up outside of the White House back in 2021. Biden going for a test drive, promoting electric vehicles, which he mandated like a tyrant onto the American people, cars nobody wanted, that are now rotting on dealerships all across the country. The fury against Doge remains strong on the left, though. They are very, very threatened by this, and their fury is getting worse. The governor of Delaware humiliating himself on CNBC.
If Elon's watching right now, what would you tell him?
Elon who?
Musk.
Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Please stop cutting our federal government with a chainsaw. Please preserve Medicaid.
He meant about the share, his shares.
He's not coming back to Delaware with that message.
Shares, yeah, Elon, yeah, he's running his company. I don't know.
Right.
I don't have much to say to him.
I guess the governor of Delaware is an idiot, what we learned tonight. It's bad when even the hosts visibly think you're a fool. Dems are still lying about Elon's comment on Fox Business this week as well, when he clearly stated that he wanted to take aim at waste in our entitlement spending, which is estimated at more than $500 billion, according to the GAO. $500 billion. That's a lot of money.
They're screaming bloody murder as Doge aims at entitlement waste. They're not taking away your Social Security unless you're dead.
That's Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. The Democratic governor of Delaware, Matt Meyer, is a former county executive serving his first term as governor of Joe Biden's home state. And to Rob's point of government waste, check this out.
There is no question that there is an enormous amount of waste and fraud and abuse in this government.
We cannot keep our promises on Medicare. We simply must make the cuts in waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare.
If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out.
Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. The same guy who always talks about Republicans wanting to shut down the government announced yesterday that Democrats in the Senate will be blocking the continuing resolution, likely resulting in a government shutdown this weekend.
Funding the government should be a bipartisan effort, but Republicans chose a partisan path, drafting their continuing resolution without any input from congressional Democrats. Because of that, Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR. Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass.
And remember, the Senate needs a super majority of 60 votes to pass the bill, which means some Democrats are going to have to vote in favor of it. One of those who says he is not going to support a shutdown is Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman. More from this morning's Wake Up America.
Former Georgia Congressman Jack Kingston, former Ohio Congressman Bob McEwen. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Jack, you heard John Fetterman's comments there. What do you make of the Democrats' hypocrisy on a potential shutdown? He seems to be the only one who's making sense.
Well, it's interesting that he has emerged as such a maverick for both sides. You'll remember a month ago he went down to Mar-a-Lago. He was criticized for that. And he said, look, I'm looking for wins for Pennsylvania. I'm looking for wins for the United States of America. And I will work with anybody who can help us achieve that. I served on the Appropriations Committee for 20 years. I did not like CRs either. It's always better to pass the regular appropriations. But when you can't do it, you've got to keep the government running. You've got to keep things working. You've got to keep the soldiers paid on the way. So I think that the fact that he is going to be independent on it is probably going to encourage other Democrats. With him, now we need 7 more just to get to cloture. And then when the vote comes to the floor, they can vote to shut down the government. But all we're talking about right now is the procedural vote that will allow the CR to get to the floor for the debate.
Yeah, Bob, I mean, come on now. Democrats have been running around Washington, D.C. for the past 5-6 weeks saying, oh, these poor government workers that Doge is laying off, they're losing their jobs. And now they're going to vote to shut down the government and put people out of their jobs. I mean, where does the hypocrisy end?
It seems to be a bottomless pit. You're exactly right, Mark. A continuing resolution, a CR, what is that? That means you don't have a new budget. You don't have a new program. You continue spending at whatever the budget was before. Who was in charge of the last budget? It was Senator Schumer, who was majority leader. And so all they're doing now is continuing resolution to continue to spend at that level. A couple little minor changes, as Jack mentioned. There was a pay raise for some soldiers and that sort of thing. But basically, it's his budget. And now he says, oh, I want to shut down the government, which is what? Political. You're exactly right, Mark.
Yeah, it is political. There's one guy, right? John Fetterman. Jack, is there any chance that he talks some sense into at least 8, right? That's how many they need. At least 8 more Democrats maybe come around before midnight on Friday?
Oh, well, I think they will. I think that Senator Kelly and Senator Kaine are already talking in that direction. And my home of Georgia, I think Senator Ossoff is going to be in a politically very tough race next go-round. I think he's going to vote to keep the government open. I think if he does that, Senator Warnock, his Georgia colleague, will probably join him. And that's what happens is one by one, people start saying, I got to get to a yes. and it might be for my own politics. And by the way, speaking of their own politics, I think a lot of Chuck Schumer's motivation right now is he's afraid of being primaried by AOC or maybe Congressman Jeffries, because it does appear that the New York Democrat base is getting more and more hard left, and I think he's got to keep one eye on his own politics.
Former Georgia Republican Representative Jack Kingston and former Ohio Congressman Bob McEwen on Wake Up America with Charlotte McBride and Mark Lotter. Yesterday, we talked about the cuts at the Department of Education. You heard Secretary Linda McMahon on with Greta, right? Next up is the Department of Veteran Affairs. We've already heard from Department Secretary Doug Collins saying the narrative on mainstream media is false. Here's more from former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie, who spoke with another former Navy SEAL.
A recent report says as much as 80,000 staffers are going to get the axe. So the Washington Post saying that, quote, veterans flock to government jobs, now thousands are being fired. Look, the concept that just because you're a veteran, if your position is not about efficiency and it's not helping others, then it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or if you're an Eskimo. Your position shouldn't exist. We're getting rid of positions that are not economical, that just simply just not needed. So I'd pose the question to Democrats, how can you say you're suddenly caring about veteran employment when you were happy to fire active duty soldiers for not getting a vaccine? Authors of the new book, Mission Invincible Marriage, okay, fellow team guy Jason and his wife Erica Redmond, the boss. The whole veteran thing is interesting to me because no, I don't think any veteran actually feels I'm owed this job. Veterans are happy to earn their keep. Sometimes they're just in departments that aren't.
Yeah, what's interesting, I was just in D.C. last week. I heard Secretary Collins speak, and he talked about during the Biden administration, budget went up by almost $2 billion. Mm-hmm. 80,000 people were hired. Backlogs on disability benefits were 40,000. It increased tenfold over the 4 years. When he stepped into office, it's over 400,000 now. So you can't tell me it's efficient. We're not doing the right thing. We need to make sure we're taking care of our veterans better. Obviously helping those guys find new jobs, new purpose.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing, too, that you're here, Mission Invincible Marriage, okay? This is your new book. Fantastic, okay? You put a little part that we pulled out. Military life is hell on marriage. In special operations world, the toll is even greater. Our divorce rate is nearly 90% in the SEAL teams, as SEALs were highly trained to face every kind of obstacle that could possibly present itself on the battlefield. But at home, we're losing the war for our marriage. Look, I got divorced right after I got out of the military, too. So, I get this stuff. I mean, Erica, this is a big thing that nobody's focusing on.
We're excited that if we can take our 24 years together and things that...
You put up with him for 24...
I know. I've had to pay a lot.
She could have made it through buds.
But if we can take these concepts that helped us beat these odds, we really hope that some of the tips and tools that we use to make it through this special operations career and being wounded and now running businesses together, we really hope that other military, fire, police, that this can actually help make a difference.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, Jason, you and I actually did a workup together over at Team 10. I actually think you're better looking now than you were before you got shot, but
plastic surgery works wonders, man. Shout out Ed Rodriguez.
Exactly. I mean, here's the thing is, this whole thing with, go, 11 months on the road, if you've got kids, wife, everything like that, they're serving just as much as you are.
If not more so. And I think that's the thing. So often, the protector community, take the SEALs out of it for a minute. Military, law enforcement, fire, all of us come into this job because we're protectors. We're mission focused. And unfortunately, too often, we think it's an either or thing. Hey, either I can be this great SEAL, police officer, firefighter, or I'm not able to be a good husband, or, I've got to figure out a way to do both. And more often than not, they say, I can't do both. We are living proof. And there's a lot of others. We know others that are out there. But we actually put it into a formula using special operations principles for guys and gals to use to have that.
And I got 20 seconds left. But sometimes it's going to hurt, and you just got to suck it up, right?
I mean, absolutely. And I think that we, communication, We outlined our rules of engagement. We've definitely navigated, and I think that this will be really relatable, especially the protector community, but I think it'll apply to anybody.
No friendly fire. Don't shoot your teammate.
Yeah, that's good. The book is fantastic. Okay, Mission Invincible Marriage. We have it there on screen. Get a copy. Jason and Erica Redmond, you guys are the best.
Not only did their marriage survive long deployments, but Jason was seriously injured as well, as Carl mentioned. So kudos to them for their successful marriage and also for trying to help other folks. President Trump is meeting with and had lunch with the Secretary General of NATO at the White House today. Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall in that meeting? The battle on Capitol Hill over the spending bill, the CR, and the pending partial government shutdown is also taking center stage. So maybe the Democrats will be taking a break from complaining about DOGE, except for Minnesota governor and 2024 vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. Remember him? It's like, who's that already, right? He'll be taking his anti-DOGE and anti-Trump messaging on the road with stops already scheduled in Iowa, Wisconsin, and several other places. He said, given his national profile after his time on the Democratic ticket last year, he felt obligated to step up for the party. All right. On Wall Street, stocks opened slightly lower after a mixed close yesterday. There were 220,000 unemployed Americans that filed unemployment claims last week. That's 2,000 lower than the previous week, and the so-called experts were expecting a slight rise in numbers, so it is actually good news. And tonight, you won't want to miss this, okay? A total lunar eclipse. It's going to turn the moon a deep red as it passes into Earth's shadow, a rare event that happens when the sun, the Earth, and the moon align with the Earth in the middle. It may also affect your mood, your energy, according to my wife. All right, keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day and tonight on Newsmax, N2, and Newsmax.com. It all begins each and every morning with Wake Up America, followed by National Report, Newsline with Bianca De La Garza, all the way through Rob Schmitt Tonight, Finnerty, Greg Kelly, and so much more, with expert analysis from people like Hogan Gidley, Senator Rick Santorum, foreign policy expert Fred Fleitz, Judge Napolitano, and many, many others. I'm Tony Marino. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, Friday Eve, right? And do something good for someone in need, especially. Well, do something good for anyone under any circumstances, but be a good Samaritan today if you can. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.